It's an anxious wait for opposition supporters in those counties in western Kenya, where the repeat election failed to kick off amidst protests and violence. While calm has returned to the region, the opposition stronghold is counting the costs of days of violence. There are fears of a return of protests once election results are announced. CGTN Susan Mwongeli filed this report from Kisumu.
Protests have been ongoing in Kisumu for a week. Opposition supporters determined to make sure the election did not take place here. But the demonstrations have come at a price. 3 people shot dead and several others wounded.
We were protesting when police started running after us. I fell down and 2 officers beat me up with sticks. They beat me hard and hurt my leg.
Those wounded in the violence have been taken to the city's main hospital.
There were those that were beaten by policemen. That is according to what they reported to us. And there are those that were shot by the policemen. So they were taken to theater. And we are managing them now in the wards.
Local elders have condemned the violence. They want the election cancelled.
The IEBC said it will not hold elections in 4 counties, including Kisumu, citing violence which has risked the lives of electoral officials. The commission is set to announce new dates when the elections will be held.
But opposition supporters like Collins say they'll make sure there's no election here. He's due for discharge on Tuesday and says he'll rejoin the protests.
They have lost hope in the institutions, IBC one of them. They have lost within the judiciary. And I think our people have lost hope in our institution. And their only option, according to them, according to us, is that they must now fight for their right.
Opposition supporters, meanwhile, await word from their leader Raila Odinga and his plan for the week ahead. Susan Mwongeli, CGTN, Kisumu, Kenya.
Well, now let's get some analysis and some legal insights on Kenya's political situation. Muriithi Kamande is here in the studio with me. He's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the Electoral Commission. It's set to announce the results, the election results today, later on. That's in spite of the fact that voting did not happen in at least 25 constituencies. Tell us, what are the legal implications?
I've actually listened to what do you call
Robert
Nagila, and he says that they've already received, IBC has received 266 returns. So if you subtract that from 290, that's approximately around 24 constituencies that whose results haven't come in. Now we are aware that the Constitution requires that election be conducted in each constituency. That is what the Constitution provides. However, if you go to to Section 55B of the Elections Act, it gives powers to IEBC to postpone an election in 3 circumstances. 1, where it believes that there could be a breach of peace, such that the elections cannot be conducted in such an area, where there is a natural calamity or even an emergency that prevents election taking place, or there is an electoral offense has been conducted of such a magnitude that it will not be possible to proceed with that election. So that is what the Elections Act provides for. However, it makes provision that in spite of that a return where the Commission is satisfied that the result from these other areas for whose election has been postponed will not affect the final result.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I will show you what the effect of that would be. One, that for example, that it can go ahead and require a return to be made. A return is simply a declaration to be made on the votes so far and whether the person who's been, according to the results that are in already, there is a winner. Now this is where I was coming to. The effect would be one, the Constitution provides that for anybody to be declared the winner of a presidential election, they should do 2 things. 1, they must get more than half of the
Yep.
votes cast. So that is what we call in Kenya 50% plus one. So more than half of the votes cast, right? And then at the same time, that they should have at 25% in at least 24 of the counties. That is half of the counties, half of the 47 counties that we have in the country. So now, if you consider the total registered voters in these areas where the postponement has occurred, then you and adding or subtracting from the total, if you add to the total of the votes that has been cast, you ask yourself, does any candidate meet this threshold that is provided for in the Constitution? So if no candidate meets that threshold, then no declaration can be made. But if it is seen that even if you are to add the entire number of registered voters in those areas, the result will not be affected, or the person who is leading will still meet the constitutional threshold, then I believe that the IBC can go ahead and make a declaration.
You've probably answered my second question in that case,
yes.
talking about the legitimacy, but
yes.
you know, whether a candidate can be declared a
yes.
winner.
Yes.
Considering the low turnout,
yes.
And you're saying it can be,
yes.
and it's legally.
And I must add that the fact that the Constitution does not talk about turnout, does not require a certain percent of voter turnout, then voter turnout is inconsequential. Because even if 1 million Kenyans decide, it's a right. Even if 1 million Kenyans out of the 19 million registered voters decide to come out and vote, it is the voice of these 1 million voters who turn out to vote that is supposed that the Constitution talks about. So the Constitution is silent. It does not even provide or does not talk anything about voter turnout.
Let's talk about the opposition leader, Raila Odinga.
Yes.
He's adamant that a repeat vote must be done within 90 days.
Yes.
What are his options legally?
Legally is even if this election is invalidated, the one that we had, the Constitution provides that a fresh election is supposed to be conducted within 60 days. So I'm not aware of any provision in the Constitution that provides for an election to be conducted within 90 days. But the only time within which an election can be conducted within 90 days is if one of the candidates dies before the election is conducted. Then the process is supposed to start afresh from the nominations up to the election. So that is one that is provided in the Constitution, that election can be conducted within 90 days. For now, I'm not aware of any constitutional provision that would be relying on to say that the election must be conducted within 90 days.
Okay, we'll have to end it there, but thank you very much for analysis and for coming in today. Mwongeli Kamande, Advocate of the High Court. Thank you.
Thank you very much.